recognize it. We have to kind of on a case-by-case basis review it. This gives us a standard that the builders develop themselves that allows us to measure what they want to do.
Right.
We can still work with them on a case-by-case basis if they
Yes.
ask us to.
Yes,
But this helps us to have consistency.
yes.
And it also allows certain levels of certification as green building, both for contractors and the building itself.
There's a certain segment of the home buying population or remodeling population that is demanding these services from that sector, and so this has been the industry's response to that.
Right, and they're using some really controversial words like sustainable and green, but what it is, in this case, it's money, it's saving money for energy costs for homeowners. They desire to do that. Yes, sir.
Does it pencil out?
It must, or the homeowner, there's a demand for it. That's why the building industry's been asking for consistency countywide.
Well, what's the cost of maintaining certification on our inspectors?
I'd have to get you that. I don't wanna just tell you off the top of the head.
Do we have to get any certifications?
No, we just get some training. No certificate.
training.
Now, if they were LEED, they would need certification, but this is not LEED.
John?
What does this statement mean? The American Recovery and Revitalization Act grant, the Clark County calls for the adoption of voluntary green building standard. What does that mean?
They received a grant, if I'm remembering it right, they received grant money to look at their codes to see if there's any barrier to building green.
The county did.
I think it's the city of Vancouver and the county as partnership.
Clark County and the city of Vancouver were approached by customers and asked to evaluate our codes for barriers to certain construction practices. And so we sought a grant, and the grant allowed us to hire someone that came in and they looked at our codes, they looked at state codes, and they identified some barriers to some of the innovative things that folks want to do, some of which we can address, some of which we cannot. And one of the things that was pointed out was contractors are frustrated because they'll go to jurisdiction A and they're told something, they go to jurisdiction B and they're told something, and they go to jurisdiction C and they're told something else. And so the study pointed to, and the grantors promoted the idea of having a consistent standard, voluntary standard, so that when you went to each community, you got a similar response. So it's to smooth out the regulatory process for those that want to choose to do these things. We could have, done that on our own without any money, but it would have taken time and effort to figure that all out. So the grant allowed that to happen. And the city of Vancouver and the county, the home builders, the local home builders said, well, why don't you just do this across the county? Then we know for sure wherever we go. Plus, they like this standard because it's the standard that they promulgated. It was an NAHB standard that was tweaked a little bit and became this ICC standard, which gives it international recognition, and it's more readily adoptable by local agencies. It's hard for us to adopt an actual home builder's standard, but when the ICC puts its stamp on it, they make all the model building codes, like the building codes that all the states use, that made it a more readily adoptable document.
So I have a question for this. If this agreement goes through, then what is the resultant work that it's incumbent upon the city? And presumably this will change if we have the intent to develop different building codes, then we're going to be changing the building code portion as a result of this local agreement. Is that right?
It's already in the building code that
Oh.
we've adopted. Now, is it every 3 to 5 years that we have to adopt new code anyway?
The state
Because of
does it, though.
changes, state code.
The state, in fact, the codes will be changing this summer.
Mhm.
They're on a 3-year cycle. It's a state mandated code. We have no choice but to adopt it. What this does actually is, probably makes it a little bit easier for us to respond to those folks that approach us with ideas that they want to do. Now we have to kind of look at them on a case-by-case basis, ask for documentation.
Right.
This gives us a standard we can point to and say, you know, if you want to do these things, we have this standard that you can use. It's right here. It'll make things a little more consistent and I think
Right.
better. That doesn't prevent us from allowing someone to do something totally unique that they want to do, and we'd be open to it as long as it was safe and
Similar.
sanitary.
Similar to the gentleman who built the house up in Lookout Ridge that has the wind, and it's a very cost-effective, energy-saving home. And there was a lot of unique things that had never experienced before. So that applicant had to provide us a lot of independent testing that the city building officials could rely on to say it's okay.
Any other questions? Moving right through this stuff.
That's a target, can I move?
Absolutely.
What's the subject here?
Mayor's report. I can tell you that I did take part in the Mayor's Patriotic Tie Contest today in honor of Flag Day. I've spent the better part of the last 2 weeks trying to find a patriotic tie. Even going online, there's pages after pages after pages after pages, and nothing that, I had something I was looking for in particular, couldn't find it, nothing else did anything, and then we went through and we did the resolution for buying local, so I decided, great, I can't find anything I like online anyway, I'll just figure something else out. And I've got plenty of red ties and blue ties, I've got red, white, and blue ties, but I have no patriotic ties. And I visited, I think, every apparel shop in this county and found zip. But they all told me to come back, after the 4th of July because they'll have plenty of them. But, this time of year, why would we have patriotic ties? It's Flag Day. Oh, well, anyway. So I ended up going to Party City and purchasing this thing and putting it on and won. Actually, I should say there was actually a tie in the tie contest. Myself and Mayor Levitt won with his $700 designer tie. Goes to tell you that 5th graders make great judges some days.
Yeah.
So there you go. We were represented today, and while I thought it was a little bit of a hokey deal, we ended up with hardware. And there's actually a traveling trophy that is
Wow.
very gorgeous that Tim and I have to work out some sort of a something for the next year, and then it goes back, but we'll be on
They're
that.
gonna have a whole new building to put it in, aren't they?
Yeah, at some point, The only other item that I've got before Dave gets into his pieces and Jeanette, this Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we have the fire consolidation meeting. 11 o'clock over at the fire hall, and I think we boo-booed and didn't get the message out to everybody. I know, Rob, you got yourself on that committee, Councilman Shoemaker on the committee. Fire chief was gonna get information out today to the paid regulars and volunteers and everybody in the union to be able to have some representation there. I think the staff pieces we've got in place, it was the other pieces that kind of went, ooh.